What's up, guys? It's Noah here, back from the All-Star break, ready to break down Thursday's NBA slate. We had a week off from NBA DFS, but I'm back recording my video for Thursday's slate, recording this on Wednesday afternoon. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the break, whether you played DFS at all or maybe took a week off. Me personally, I didn't play any other sports besides what I mainly stick to. I mainly just cover NBA, NFL, MLB, just those three sports. Those are my three main sports. I didn't really look into XFL or NHL or any of that stuff. I just kind of took the week off, didn't play any DFS. I said it before the break, when you've been playing DFS for like 3 to 4 years, if you play like every single day or even 5-6 days a week, I mean, it can become mentally draining playing 5 to 6 days a week for 2, 3, 4 years. Anytime you can get like a maybe 5-6 day break, it's very nice for your brain just to kind of mentally reset. And that's what I tried to do during this break. Really didn't dive into any other sports. Just kind of getting prepared for this second half of the season, hopefully to finish out strong. The first half of the season didn't go great for me, but I was on a pretty good run right before the break, which kind of sucks. You get on a good run and then you have like 6 days off, which, I mean, that's never fun, but hopefully I can keep that momentum going into the second half of the season. We got a 6-game slate for Thursday, ready to break this down. We've had a couple days to prepare for this slate. The salaries have been out for a while now. Like Draftkings put out their salaries, I think on Monday, maybe Tuesday. Yahoo's had their salaries out for a while, for like 5-6 days. So we've had a couple days to look at the salaries, look at the matchups, kind of figure out who the best plays are for the 6-gamer. So we'll break it all down position by position. Just before we do get started, guys, as always, I would appreciate it if you would drop a like down below. If you are new to the channel, if this is your first time checking out a video on my channel, thank you so much for clicking on the video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and click the notification bell so that way you get notified every time I upload and you'll never miss out on any of my new videos. Also, if you would like, you can follow me on Twitter. My Twitter is linked down below in the description at DFS by Noah. If you want to give me a follow, I would appreciate it. Also, linked down in the description is my Patreon exclusive content. If you want to check out my Patreon and see all that I have to offer over there, you can check that out, link down below. Get access to my article, my updated core plays. You can join our Discord chat. Because we've had like 3 to 4 days to prepare for this slate, I've already started working on my article. I'm recording this video Wednesday afternoon. Almost have my article done as of Wednesday afternoon. I'm probably going to get it posted a little bit earlier than normal, or at least get it finished earlier than normal. I might post it at regular time. But regardless, I'll have all that content up Thursday afternoon, updated core plays, all that stuff. There shouldn't be a lot of injuries because with it being a week off, teams have had time to rest, players have had time to rest. We shouldn't see like any injuries break on Thursday, like unexpected. I would assume if guys went into the All-Star break fully healthy, that they're going to be fully healthy come Thursday. If guys maybe were injured heading into the break, if they've had a week to rest up, I assume they're going to play today. But we'll talk about all the injuries if there are any at each position. So we'll start off at point guard. We got 3 guys over 10K on Draftkings at this position. You got James Harden, Trae Young, and Russell Westbrook. I think choosing between these 3 guys on who I'd want to pay for if I had to choose one of the 3, I think Russell Westbrook's my favorite guy to go to at 10,200 against the Warriors. Obviously, this is a pretty favorable matchup. The Warriors, just not that good of a defensive team. In terms of defensive rating this season, they are towards the bottom of the league. They do rank 24th in defensive rating. Westbrook, the dude's just been on an absolute heater recently. Before the break, he had posted 9 straight games over 50 DraftKings points. Only had 1 game less than that, and that was when he put up 41 DK points against the Pelicans. He's just been so consistent as of late. Definitely been a much improved fantasy player. His fantasy production has been way up, contributing in all categories, scoring, getting rebounds, getting assists. Now that Clint Capella is no longer on this team, that is a boost for both James Harden and Russell Westbrook. We can take a look at their numbers this season. When you do take Clint Capella off the floor, those 2 guys do benefit quite a bit, especially Westbrook in terms of his rebounding numbers. His rebounding numbers do see a spike with Capella off the floor. So this season, James Harden, his usage rate spikes over 40% with Capella off the floor, 34% assist percentage, averaging 1.76 fantasy points per minute. Russell Westbrook, elite numbers as well. Nearly a 36% usage rate, averaging 1.5 fantasy points per minute, 37% assist percentage. His total rebound percentage is near 13%, which is towards the top of the team. Only ranks behind Isaiah Hartenstein and Tyson Chandler, and both those guys won't even play most likely. Pretty sure Hartenstein got sent down to the G League, and Tyson Chandler, he gets DMP'd every game. So Russell Westbrook does have the highest rebounding percentage on the team when you take Clint Capella off the floor. So I do like him quite a bit at 10-2. I don't think he's going to be a core play for me today because there's some other studs I like. We're going to talk about Joel Embiid. I think he's in a great spot for only 9K. I like him a lot. Jimmy Butler against the Hawks looks really good. Bam Adebayo in that same matchup looks really good. So I don't think I'm going to be prioritizing getting up to Westbrook, but if I have to choose a guard to pay up for, he is my favorite guy to go to. Now, Trae Young is someone I've played a ton this season. This is a tough spot for him against the Heat. Really good defensive team, really good team against guards defensively. But still, Trae Young, we know this is a guy that has massive upside. He's playing at home. This game should be competitive, especially with the Hawks playing at home. I think it can stay close. If it's close, we know Trae Young's going to play 36 to 38 minutes. I think I slightly prefer Westbrook over him because Westbrook just has a better matchup. But I don't want to completely ignore Trae Young. I think he is in play, especially on a 6-game slate. Ben Simmons, I like this matchup a lot for him against Brooklyn, but he is very expensive on DraftKings. $9,500, pretty tough price to pay for Ben Simmons. I think if I'm going to play him today, it's definitely going to be over on Yahoo. I think at $36, Ben Simmons looks very appealing. $6 less than Trae Young, $7 less than Westbrook. If I'm going to play Simmons, I think it's going to be there. Jimmy Butler, though, I like a ton in this spot against the Heat. Against the Hawks, excuse me. I think this is a great spot for Jimmy Butler. His price tag is very appealing, only $7,900 on DK. Going over to Yahoo, looking at their pricing, I like Butler a lot over there as well. $33 at shooting guard. I think he looks like one of the best shooting guard options on the slate. You could obviously pay up for James Harden at $50 or maybe Zach LaVine at $37. But I really like Butler at $33 in this matchup. We know how good this matchup is. The Hawks are one of the worst defensive teams in the league. In terms of defensive rating, they rank 28th in defensive rating, only behind the Wizards and the Cavs. In terms of pace, they do play at a very fast pace. They're 7th in pace this season. The Heat are towards the bottom of the league in pace, so this is a big-time pace-up spot for these Miami guys. I really don't see how Jimmy Butler fails in this spot other than maybe a blowout and he gets his minutes limited, but even if it is a blowout, it's going to be most likely because Jimmy Butler's putting up a big game. For what it's worth, he's played the Hawks 3 times this season. They played 3 times, and through those 3 games, Jimmy Butler has averaged 48 DraftKings points against the Hawks. He's had a lot of success in this matchup, really to no surprise. It's a great spot. We're going to get 34 to 36 minutes from Jimmy Butler most likely if this is a close game. He's got 50, 55, close to 60-point upside. We've seen just in his last few games, 51 DK points, 56 DK points. Like, even with the Heat starting to get fully healthy, getting some guys back, Jay Crowder been playing really well off the bench. They have, Gordon Dragic's still been playing really well off the bench, but we do know Tyler Hero's still going to be out. He's unlikely to play. Myers Leonard's unlikely to play as well, so you take those guys off the floor. Jimmy Butler still has very good numbers. We'll look at him real quickly. Just when you take Myers Leonard, take Tyler Hero, who are both unlikely to play. We know they got Jay Crowder, they got Iguodala. I don't expect those guys to cut into Butler's usage though that much. I don't expect those guys to cut into his production that much. Butler still has really good numbers. 27% usage rate, averaging over 1.2 fantasy points per minute. 26% assist percentage, nearly a 12% total rebound percentage. Definitely like him in this spot against the Hawks. So I think he's one of my favorite guards to pay up for today at $7,900 on DK. He looks very appealing. Then going down to the 7K range, there are a lot of good plays here as well. De'Aaron Fox, I like a ton today in the spot against Memphis. I think Fox, for one, is just underpriced on DraftKings for the big-time upside this guy has, especially in this matchup. This is a very favorable spot for Fox against the Grizzlies. We know the Grizzlies are also a team that plays very fast. In terms of pace this season, they do rank 5th in pace. This is a matchup that Fox has had a lot of success in. They've played the Grizzlies twice this season. Through those 2 games, he's averaged 48 DraftKings points against them. At only $7,400, I don't know how you kind of get away from Fox. I expect he's popular, but at that price tag, he looks very appealing. With Terry Rozier expected to play, I would much rather play Fox over Graham. I think with Kyrie still out, you can definitely play Dinwiddie. I think I would prefer Fox, though, straight up. He looks like the best mid-range option at guard. I'd prefer him over Bledsoe, Morant. Give me Fox over all those guys. I expect him to have a lot of success in this matchup. Looking over to Yahoo and at their pricing, at $30 at point guard, I think De'Aaron Fox looks very appealing over there as well. We do know that Marvin Bagley, Rashawn Holmes, both those guys are still going to be out for a pretty long amount of time. I don't think there's a chance Bagley doesn't even play this season. It seems like Holmes maybe can return late February, early March, but for now, those guys are still going to be out. And we'll take a look at Fox's numbers with those guys off the floor. Take Bagley off, take Holmes off. Fox does see a bit of a usage bump. Usage is over 30%, I believe. Yeah, 31.6% usage rate, averaging 1.21 fantasy points per minute, 32% assist percentage for De'Aaron Fox with both Bagley and Holmes off the floor. So I like him a lot here, especially in a pace-up spot. Anytime you get Fox playing up in pace, that's when I have a lot of interest in him. He tends to play well in those matchups, and that's definitely the case today against Memphis. But Spencer Dinwiddie, don't want to ignore him either. With Kyrie still out, I think Dinwiddie is definitely a guy we could look to, even in a tough spot against Philly. Gonna play 34 to 36 minutes. Before the break, he was on a little bit of a heater, putting up 49, 47, 39 DraftKings points in those 3 games without Kyrie. When you take Irving off the floor, his usage rate does spike over 30%, has very similar numbers to De'Aaron Fox. So I think you can definitely play Dinwiddie, especially if you're looking for like a lower-owned play. I think a guy like Fox, Butler, these guys are going to be more popular than Dinwiddie. So in tournaments, if you want to make that pivot, I think that's totally fine. I have no problems with Dinwiddie at 7,300, even in a tough matchup. But one of the kind of big news, or I shouldn't say big news, but big things that did happen over the All-Star break was Reggie Jackson getting his contract bought out from the Pistons, and now he is going to be on the Clippers. So with Reggie Jackson no longer on the Pistons, that is a big bump for Derrick Rose. And Derrick Rose's price has plummeted on DraftKings. He's down to 5,900. If you just look in the game log, this is a guy we were paying nearly $8K for not too long ago. With Andre Drummond no longer on the team, obviously Blake Griffin's still going to be out, Luke Kennard's still going to be out. Derrick Rose actually has really good numbers with those guys off the floor, and it's a pretty good sample size as well. We'll take Griffin off because he's going to be out. We'll take Luke Kennard off. Reggie Jackson no longer on the team, so we can take him and Andre Drummond both off since those guys got traded away. So let me take Reggie off if I could spell his name. Reggie Jackson. We'll take him off. We'll take Drummond off because obviously we know those guys are no longer on the team. You look at the sample size, it's a pretty big sample. I think it's like 300, 400 minutes for Rose. Yeah, 359 minutes. He's played with all 4 of those guys off the floor. 33.6% usage rate, averaging close to 1.4 fantasy points per minute, 53% assist percentage nearly. Those are elite numbers for a guy priced at only 5,900. The only concern with Derrick Rose is what are his minutes going to look like. He returned from injury in their last game before the break against Orlando. He came off the bench in that game, only played 17 minutes, only scored 10 DraftKings points. Very concerning to see that, but given the All-Star break, given that Derrick Rose had a full week to heal, I'm assuming he's back to starting and playing probably 32 to 34 minutes. They were starting to ramp up his minutes. He was getting 33 minutes, 37, 30, 34 minutes. He's no longer limited to 28 minutes like he was at the beginning of the season. The Pistons have shown they will play Derrick Rose 33, 34 minutes if it's a close game. Now, obviously, this game against the Bucks could blow out. I believe even at home, the Pistons are still 15 or 14-point underdogs. Yeah, they're 13-point dogs right now, according to Yahoo's kind of point totals or spreads or whatever. But if we get 30, 32 minutes from Derrick Rose with no Reggie Jackson, no Andre Drummond, no Blake Griffin, he is going to have to do everything. He's just going to soak up a ton of usage. If you take his rates this season, project him for 30 minutes, he projects for almost probably 40, 45 DraftKings points. At 5,900, if people are going to be scared away from him because he only played 17 minutes last game, I'm going to be all over Derrick Rose today. I love his DraftKings price of 5,900. I think you can definitely play him on Yahoo as well. I'm not going to include him in the early core, but maybe I will make some changes, and I'll post those later on Patreon. But at $23, I think Derrick Rose is totally in play over there as well. Even though Milwaukee is a really good defensive team, they do play at the fastest pace in the league. They are leading the league in pace this season, so this is a big pace-up spot for the Pistons. I mean, if we can get 30 minutes from Rose with his usage that he's going to get with no Drummond, all those guys off the floor, he could easily go for 40, 45 DK points, which is way too good to pass up at 5,900. So, love Derrick Rose. Hopefully he's not limited. I would assume with a week to rest, he's going to be full go and not going to be limited at all, which makes him a great play at only 5,900. I think with Reggie Jackson no longer on the team, that also helps Bruce Brown at 5,200. If you want to target him, I'm fine going there. Jordan Poole got the start over Kai Bowman last game. Played a good amount of time, 32 minutes, 22 DraftKings points at 4K, and a pace-up spot against the Rockets. I'm fine using him as a value play today. But I think that's probably it for point guard values. With Detroit shorthanded, without Reggie Jackson, that can maybe open up someone like Langston Galloway, who we'll talk about. He's not point guard, but we'll mention him when we get to shooting guard. So looking at this position, really nothing at the top stands out. Like Butler, you can play here. Wiggins at 7,600 is fine. I think I would just prefer Butler over him. But in his short sample this season with the Warriors, through 3 games with the Warriors, he's been pretty good. 31, 34, and 34 minutes, 42, 26, and 52 DraftKings points. He's shown big upside with this team. I mean, he's going to get plenty of usage, so I'm fine with Wiggins. I think I would just prefer Butler, Fox over him. Dinwiddie you also have. You could play a shooting guard. Buddy Hield in a pace-up spot against the Grizzlies at 6,600. I'm fine using him in the mid-range at shooting guard. Maybe with him winning the three-point contest, that kind of gives him some confidence, some motivation heading into the second half of the season. In the 5K range, not really much stands out here. I guess Bogdan you could play at 4,900. He's still going to start and play probably 30, 32 minutes most nights, and a pace-up spot against the Grizzlies. Not the worst play. I just don't think I'd consider him a core value for me. I think at shooting guard, my favorite value by far is definitely Josh Richardson. So Josh Richardson, very similar to Derrick Rose, just kind of the opposite. We saw Rose in his first game back from injury, played very poorly, only 17 minutes, 10 DK points. Well, Josh Richardson, right before the All-Star break, he was starting to heat up, had a big game against the Clippers, moved back into the starting lineup and played 32 minutes and had 33 DraftKings points. Richardson has been absolutely killed by injuries this season. That's just really hurt him all season. His minutes have been down. The production's been inconsistent because of the injuries. But now that he's had a full week to heal, I assume we're going to get probably 30 to 32 minutes from Richardson again, if not more. He should stick in the starting lineup. He's still only 4,200 on DraftKings. This is a guy that even alongside Embiid, Simmons, he still averaged 0.8 fantasy points per minute, which is not bad at all, especially if he's going to play 32 to 34 minutes. It is a really good matchup against Brooklyn. I think Josh Richardson's one of my favorite values on today's slate. Just didn't get priced up to what he should be now that he's back to playing his full allotment of minutes. This is a guy we were paying nearly $6K for when he was fully healthy. I'm assuming he's fully healthy today. So I like him a lot as a value. He's got small forward eligibility on DK, which is very appealing. You can also play him as shooting guard. Looking over at Yahoo, I think he looks like a really good value over there as well. He's shooting guard, which sucks because there's a lot of good shooting guard plays like Jimmy Butler. There's a lot of guard plays today, but I think Josh Richardson is definitely one of the better values at only $14 on Yahoo. If I'm going cheap at shooting guard, he's by far my favorite option. Like I talked about earlier, you could go to Jordan Poole. With Reggie Jackson now no longer on the team, I think that does give a small boost to Langston Galloway. He was already getting about 30 to 32 minutes off the bench. I think that's probably what he plays today. At 3,700 in a fast-paced game, or pace-up spot, I should say, against Milwaukee. I think Langston Galloway is totally in play as a punt value. Svi Mykhailiuk, kind of the same thing with Reggie no longer on the team. Should give a little bit more minutes to Svi. Probably plays 28 to 30 minutes. Never a guy you feel great about just because his upside's not that high. I mean, even on his good games, he's really only giving you 20 to 25 DraftKings points. But at 3,200, it's not like you need him to put up 50 DK points. If he gives you 20 to 25, that's pretty good at a near minimum salary. So both him and Langston Galloway are in play for me as shooting guard value options. But let's go ahead and talk about small forward now. So at this position, I think my favorite option here, in the mid-range, not talking about guys I've already mentioned, Karis LeVert I like quite a bit, 6,700 on DraftKings. With Kyrie still out, obviously this is a big boost to Karis LeVert, also a big boost to Spencer Dinwiddie. We'll take a look at both those guys' numbers this season. With Kyrie off the floor, those are the two main beneficiaries. Those guys get the most usage when Kyrie's out. Just looking at the sample we have, over 1,000 minutes for both, or close to 1,000 minutes. Over 1,000 minutes for Dinwiddie. LeVert's played close to 500 minutes with Kyrie off the floor. But Dinwiddie, his usage gets near 32%. LeVert's usage is at 31%. Both guys averaging over a fantasy point per minute. If you just look at the usage on the team, the next highest guy in usage is Theo Pinson, who I don't even know if he's going to play that many minutes today. Jared Allen has a 15% usage rate. Joe Harris, 18%. Taurean Prince has a 21% usage rate, which really isn't that high. So it's going to be the Dinwiddie and LeVert show while Kyrie Irving remains out. So Karis LeVert at 6,700, he's shown he has 45, 50 point upside when you take Kyrie off the floor. He can put up big outings. There's going to be nights where he knocks down 50, 60% of his shots, and it's going to be tough to predict when those nights happen, but when they do, That's when you're going to get big games from Karis LeVert. Tough matchup against Philly, but the price tag's pretty appealing. Small forward, just looking at the position as a whole, is pretty weak today, so I like Karis LeVert. I think Tobias Harris at 6,400 looks very appealing on DraftKings. He had a very nice game against the Clippers right before the All-Star break. Played 37 minutes and had 41 DraftKings points. Harris did get to start at power forward that game because Al Horford moved to the bench. We don't know yet if that's going to be a permanent move or if that was just a one-time thing. But if Tobias Harris does start at power forward again, that is a boost for his rebounding numbers, just a boost for his production overall. He had a double-double in that game with 5 assists as well. I definitely like him at 6,400. Him and LeVert, probably two of my favorite small forward plays, especially just looking at the mid-range. In terms of value, though, I think Bruce Brown's fine. We talked about him. You can play Richardson here for value. Jay Crowder at 5K against the Hawks, I like quite a bit. He's played 3 games with the Heat this season since getting traded to the team. 35 minutes, 31 minutes, 25 minutes, 45, 39, 23 DraftKings points. I think the production for Crowder is going to be somewhat inconsistent, but at 5K, in a great matchup against the Hawks, he's totally in play for me as a value option. If you're looking for a cheap small forward, I do like Jay Crowder quite a bit. But yeah, I think that's probably it for small forward. Like I said earlier, you have Svi you could punt with at 3,200, but let's go ahead and talk about the power forward position now. So at the top here, we have Giannis, 11,100 on DraftKings. Top power forward on the slate, or top power forward price play, I should say. In terms of overall pricing, he's second to James Harden, $200 less than Harden. I think I'd honestly prefer Giannis over Harden today. Maybe that's a hot take, but Giannis, this dude's just been so good this season, even in blowouts, even when his minutes are limited. He's still giving you like a 45 to 50 point floor. If you just look at his last 10 games, he has put up 50 plus DraftKings points in every single game. He had 50 against Brooklyn, then 57, 67, 65, 60. Like, Giannis has just been so good this season, been so consistent. Even, like I said, even when he's limited, he can still give you 50, 55 DK points. We'll take a look at his numbers this season. He does have much better numbers than James Harden. Like we saw earlier, Harden's usage is at like 40% when Clint Capella's off the floor, averages about 1.7 fantasy points per minute, like 1.75. You look at Giannis's numbers though, even better than Harden's, averaging close to 1.9 fantasy points per minute. Usage rate's a little bit less than Harden's, but still 37% usage rate, 33.5% assist percentage, 21.1% total rebound percentage. It's hard to not like Giannis here on a short slate, especially in a matchup against the Pistons, a team that probably is going to have no answer for him. The only concern you have with Giannis today is if this game blows out, how many minutes does Giannis play? If it stays close, though, I mean, if we get like 32 to 34 minutes from Giannis against the Pistons, he could totally go for 70 DraftKings points, and I would not be surprised at all. So in terms of like the 10K and above studs, Westbrook, Harden, Trae Young, I think Giannis is my favorite guy to go to between these 4 guys. We still haven't talked about Joel Embiid yet. I love Joel Embiid at only 9K, but I still think Giannis is a great spend-up option. I like him a ton. Hard to see him failing against the Pistons, even if his minutes are limited. He could still give you 55, 60 DK points, which is still really good at only 11-1 on DraftKings. Definitely too cheap of a price tag for Giannis just overall. But other power forwards, really isn't much here that I haven't already talked about. Christian Wood's fine to go to at 6,900. He finally had a good game last game against Orlando. He really struggled against Charlotte, which was kind of disappointing. I was very high on him that day. Only 20 DK points in 23 minutes, but then bounced back against Orlando, playing 38 minutes, scoring 48 DraftKings points. I mean, now that Christian Wood is their starting center and playing big minutes, like he's going to give you probably 40, 45 DK points most nights. This isn't the best spot against Milwaukee, but obviously we know Milwaukee plays at a fast pace. Should allow for more possessions for Detroit, more rebound opportunities. Could definitely see Christian Wood putting up a big double-double. So at 6,900, he is in play for me. In terms of like him versus John Collins, I would definitely prefer the savings and rostering Wood for nearly $2,000 cheaper. You do have Tobias Harris you could play at power forward, who I actually like quite a bit. Between him and Christian Wood, I think Christian Wood maybe gives you a little bit more upside. Tobias Harris might be a little bit safer, so it's just kind of, if you're playing maybe cash, I'd probably side with Tobias Harris. For tournaments, you could maybe go with Christian Wood, especially if you're playing Giannis and you want to run it back with someone from Detroit. I could see playing Christian Wood then. But like Miles Bridges, Jaren Jackson Jr., these guys don't really stand out for me. Bielitsa's fine against the Grizzlies at 5,900 if you want to go to him. Jay Crowder, we talked about earlier, you could play at 5K in a great matchup against the Hawks. There are a couple of values, though, I do like at power forward. I think Cody Zeller, assuming he moves back into the starting lineup, is totally fine at only 4,500. It was kind of surprising. He did not play Wednesday. It was kind of a late scratch. He didn't play because of, I believe it was like an injury plus rest. It was just kind of a weird thing. They wound up starting Bismack Biyombo that game, and Bismack actually had a really good game, put up like 35 DK points, played like almost 30 minutes. We don't know yet if Bismack's going to continue to start, if Zeller's going to come off the bench, what's going to happen here. I'm assuming that Zeller plays today and he moves back into the starting lineup as the starting center. So at 4,500 and a really good matchup against the Bulls, I like Cody Zeller quite a bit. PJ Washington I'm pretty high on as a value play, only 4,500 on DK. This is another guy that's just kind of been killed by injuries this season. But right before the break, he was starting to heat up a little bit. The minutes were starting to be there, 36, 31 minutes. 22, 18 Draftkings points. The production for PJ Washington has definitely been a concern. Like, you look at the game log, it's not very pretty. Under 30 Draftkings points in 9 straight games. But still, it's hard to ignore him at only 4,500 on DK. Great matchup against the Bulls. We know how bad this team is versus bigs, versus power forwards and centers. They've been one of the worst defensive teams versus bigs, one of the worst rebounding teams this season. So I actually like PJ Washington a lot as a value play. With a week to heal, I think we're going to see him back to playing 34, 36 minutes a night. The production may be inconsistent, but if he's going to play that much amount of time at a cheap price tag in a really good matchup, I'm totally fine with him as a value option. So I do like PJ Washington as a cheap power forward, but I think that's it for this position. So we'll talk about center real quick just before we end the video. So at the top of the center position, there's a lot of good options I like here. Specifically, Joel Embiid and Bam Adebayo I think stand out as two great plays today. Embiid at only 9K on DraftKings looks like one of my favorite plays on the slate against Brooklyn. Hard to not like him in this matchup. This is just such a good spot for Joel Embiid. We know how bad Brooklyn is versus bigs, how bad they've been this season. Really hasn't changed much. I mean, they've been a team that struggled to defend bigs just in previous seasons, and that's been the case this season. You look at any sort of DVP stats, Brooklyn has still allowed, I believe, the third most fantasy points to centers this season. Now they're going to have to face Joel Embiid, who we know is just an absolute monster. This is a guy that puts up or averages like 1.5 fantasy points per minute this season, has a very high usage rate, over 30% usage if I'm not mistaken. With Al Horford moving to the bench, I think that will help Joel Embiid a little bit in terms of his production. He only played 28 minutes last game with Horford coming off the bench, but a lot of that had to do with foul trouble. Embiid did pick up a couple early fouls in that game. Normally he's going to play like 32 to 34 minutes. If he gets most of his time without Horford, that's going to help his production a little bit. But even alongside Horford, like even on the season, Embiid still has averaged nearly 1.5 fantasy points per minute, nearly a 32% usage rate, 19% assist percentage, 21% total rebound percentage, just elite numbers, and now he's in a smash spot. He's only 9K on DK. Absolutely love Joel Embiid today. I think he's severely underpriced. One of my favorite spend-up options on the slate. Brooklyn and Philly have played 3 times this season, but Joel Embiid has been hurt for all those games. Now that he's fully healthy, like, he should absolutely smash here in this matchup. Just looking back at previous games against Brooklyn in the past, I know Embiid played them twice last season. He had like 66 DK points in one game. I believe he had 74 DK points in the other game. Like, Embiid's had a lot of success in this matchup in the past. Now we're getting him at home in a great spot, underpriced on DraftKings, underpriced on Yahoo, only $37 over there. It looks like one of my favorite plays overall on today's slate. Definitely like Joel Embiid at his 9K price, and $37 on Yahoo, just way too low over there. I mean, looking at his price compared to other guys, you could argue that maybe Simmons is too cheap at 36, but give me Embiid over guys like Levine. I think I'd take the savings and play him over Trae Young, Westbrook. Just love Joel Embiid in this spot. One of my favorite plays on today's slate. But Bam Adebayo, don't want to ignore him either. Great spot for Bam Adebayo against the Hawks. We talked about it earlier. Hawks are one of the worst defensive teams in the league. They play at a very fast pace. Very similar to Jimmy Butler, Adebayo has had a ton of success in this matchup as well. Through 3 games against the Hawks, he has averaged 49 DraftKings points through those 3 games against them. At 7,800, he is definitely underpriced as well. If you can play like Embiid and Adebayo together, I think that makes plenty of sense, especially with not a ton of value at center. We will talk about a cheap option I like, but I feel like this is probably a position we want to try and spend up at, so I definitely like playing both those guys together if you can make it work. But then you have like Joe Val, Christian Wood, guys we kind of talked about. Christian Wood we talked about earlier. These guys are going to be more secondary options for me. I really feel like I'm going to try and spend up at center today. Don't see myself going to the mid-range. Marquise Chris been playing really well. At 6,200 though, I think I'd just rather try and get up to guys like Adebayo and Embiid rather than pay nearly 6K for Marquise Chris, over 6K for Marquise Chris. Same with guys like Brook Lopez, DeAndre Jordan. Just don't see myself going to these guys. Jarrett Allen has seen his price plummet on DK. The minutes have been weighed down. He's still been productive, though. I mean, 27, 34 DK points last 2 games. Only getting 20 minutes, though, in those 2 games. We've seen DeAndre Jordan getting like 26 to 28 minutes. They've kind of flip-flop roles. Like, it used to be Jarrett Allen would play 26 to 28 minutes, and then DeAndre Jordan would get like 20 to 22. Now it's Jordan getting 26, 28, and Allen's getting 20 to 22. So I think I still prefer Jarrett Allen over Jordan just because he's the starter. I assume he gets more minutes most nights, but it's hard to ignore that Jordan, 29 minutes, 28 minutes, 23 minutes. Against Embiid, it's a tough matchup regardless. Maybe, I guess if you want to say maybe Jarrett Allen gets into some early foul trouble, that could lead to DeAndre Jordan getting more minutes. Regardless, though, I don't think I'm going to go to either guy today. If I had to choose one, it probably would still be Jarrett Allen, though, just because I assume he still starts, which makes me more interested in him, especially because he is a little bit cheaper than DeAndre Jordan. But the value play I want to talk about right before we end the video is Dwayne Dedmon. He's the last guy we'll touch on, 4,800 on Draftkings. We've already gotten word that Clint Capella is still not going to play for the Hawks. He's still going to be out. So Dwayne Dedmon, I assume, starts at center again. Dedmon, in his 2 games with the Hawks before starting, he played against the Knicks and against the Magic. Came off the bench in both those games, played 33 minutes and 28 minutes. Was very productive with 28 and 31 Draftkings points. Then he got the start against Cleveland, but he dealt with a ton of foul trouble in that game. If you watch that game or even just look at the box score, you saw Dedmon picked up 2 early fouls. Then he got back on the floor, picked up another foul. Like, he was just limited all game because of foul trouble. He still was productive, though. He still had 25 DK points in 18 minutes. I assume, though, now that he's the starting center, he's going to play probably 30 to 32 minutes most nights, as long as he can stay out of foul trouble. At 4,800, he is totally in play as a value option. Dwayne Dedmon's been a fantasy point per minute player this season. The minutes should be there. He's very cheap on Yahoo. I think that's where I like him the most. He's only $14 at center. I think you could obviously pay up for both Embiid and Adebayo, but going to Dedmon as a value option makes plenty of sense. I definitely like him at his $14 salary on Yahoo. I'm assuming he starts again, which makes me very interested in him. Don't fall into the trap of looking at the game log, seeing he played 18 minutes and shying away. It was because of foul trouble. Had 4 fouls in those 18 minutes, picked up a lot of early fouls at the beginning of the game. Andre Drummond was kind of drawing fouls on Dedmon. Maybe he gets foul trouble again against Bam Adebayo, but still, that's something that's very hard to predict. I'm going to roster Dedmon today, assuming he's going to get his 30, 32 minutes. That's what I'm assuming, and that makes me very interested in him as a value option, especially because he's still cheap on both sides. 4,800 on DK, $14 over on Yahoo. But yeah, guys, I think we covered everything. Kind of a long video. I know I've been talking for a while now. Been talking for 35, 40 minutes. But I wanted to break down as much as I could. Like I said at the beginning, the salaries have been out for a couple of days, so I've had a lot of time to kind of look at the slate, kind of figure out who I like, who I'm going to be targeting. So if this video helped you guys, I would appreciate it if you would drop a like down below. Hit that subscribe button as well if you have not yet. I would appreciate it if you would subscribe. Click the notification bell as well, so that way you do get notified every time I upload. If you have not yet, you can follow me on Twitter. Link down below is my Twitter account at DFS by Noah. Also, link down below is my Patreon. If you want to check out all the exclusive content I have to offer over there, I would greatly appreciate it. Patreon's link down below. But best of luck tonight, guys. Feels good to be back playing some NBA DFS. Hope you guys win some money on Thursday, and we will be back on Friday, breaking down Friday's slate. Peace.